More NASCAR content? For all the latest in NASCAR, including driver interviews, race recaps, fantasy NASCAR, listener call-in shows, and awesome giveaways, tune in to the Lap Traffic Podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or your favorite hosting site with new shows every Tuesday night. Check out Lap Traffic on the web, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, and follow on Twitter @LapTrafficPC. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!
With the ButtKicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. ButtKicker, the future is feeling.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Happy holidays as we are back to give you coverage of the Full Send Racing Series. They had last week off due to the fact that Thanksgiving was last week here in the States. But we are right back to playoff racing action, and what a place to restart. It is the beginning of the round of 8 for the Full Send Racing Series. 8 drivers left in the playoffs. We started with 12. 4 had to say goodbye 2 weeks ago at Michigan. And can't wait to see how these drivers that are left, who can go for the championship, because we still got the two-time champion of Cameron Sarton still here, but there's plenty of other threats that have looked strong all season long, and we get to give you all the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Thank you for joining us. Joining me up in the booth is going to be that of Trevor Earhart. Trevor, last week off, happy holidays to yourself, and man, cannot wait to see how tonight's going to go.
Man, we needed last week off after that Michigan race where we saw a lot of playoff drivers involved in a big wreck. The almost Cinderella story of Will Bustler making it in. Man, having that week off was nice just to recover. Hopefully the holidays were good for you. But back here at Homestead, multi-groove racing, the cars look loose out there. I think we're going to be in for one heck of a race tonight.
Yeah, and we're currently right now, the drivers are underway with qualifying, and I got to say, last time that we got to cover these drivers, that Michigan race, like you said, the Cinderella story that we almost got to see Will Bustler coming up shy. He was in a must-win scenario with where everyone was lying, came up short. He was one of those drivers got eliminated. With him was that of Nick Holland, as well as Ken Campbell and Andrew Medlin, 4 drivers. They're out of the playoffs, but still in the playoffs and hunting for that championship. Inside of our top 4, going to be that of Cole Sacchetti, Cameron Sarton, that of Rob Sherwood, and Ross Tatum. Trevor, those 4 drivers, those are some strong contenders that all have looked great all season long.
I mean, the top 4 right there, I mean, they have had speed all season long. They've shown the consistency to be here. Inside the top 8, basically already into the next round if it were to end today, but just outside, 4 points, Chris Stitz. I mean, he has had speed as well all season long. Joshua Altus had great speed last week at Michigan. Unfortunately, got involved in a wreck, I believe, with Cole Sacchetti. So those 2 just outside of our top 4 are 2 drivers that, have a shot at making it in. And then quietly sitting there right behind him, Aaron Hale, the man that we don't talk that much about, but has been really consistent the last couple of races, not too far behind those 3 as well.
Yeah, and then the last drive that's here is Christopher Wade in the 53. Kind of on the same note, you could say, of Aaron Hale, of under the radar, but still they have that good finishes that come at the end of these races. The mile-and-a-half tracks is where we've seen Christopher Wade look the best as well for Aaron Hale. But as you look at our board, we got ourselves 30 seconds left, but topping it right now is Chris Stitz. Not a surprise. This 22 has looked very strong during qualifying. It's been the finishes where the 22 has been struggling the most, while Aaron Hale dropped all the way down to 12th place. This is where he's been. He is not the best qualifier, but that race pace is where the 4 has been shining. That's why he's still in our Elite 8 and still in the playoffs for this championship hunt.
Yeah, not surprised to see Aaron down there. I think we'll see him move up through the field. I mean, you also got Christopher Wade's up there in 6th, Altus in 7th. Sherwood down there in 10th, so not the best run for the 2 machine, but I'm sure we'll see him move up through the field as looks like qualifying is over, and we'll get to the official race grid here in a couple seconds.
Well, let's take a look at where the driver's going to start here tonight. As Homestead is the start of the playoffs for the round of 8 for these drivers. We also are going to be having next week the cutoff race of the Elite 8 to see who's going to be racing for that of a championship in just 2 weeks. Well, for next week, it's going to be Richmond tonight. Homestead, a 1.5 mile length course where we get to see all the chaos, multi-groove racing. Cannot wait to see how it goes down. And top of the board, it's going to be Chris Ditz, Cameron Sarton going to be our front row. Then Ken Campbell, Cole Sketty going to be in that of 3rd and 4th. Ross Tatum in 5th with that of Christopher Wade in 6th. That of Joshua Altis going to be in that of 7th with Lucas Lyons going to be in 8th. Andrew Medlin 9th. And 10th is going to be that of Rob Sherwood.
Will Bustle will roll off 11th with Aaron Hale to his outside 12th. Nick Holland in 13th. Travis Stark 14th. Charles Hugel will roll off 15th, Sam Siegel 16th, Ryan Lynch 17th, and Brian Bruchette 18th. Zach Hall and John Dart will round out your top 20.
And you can also see that going to be Daniel Keith Jr. in 21st and Philip Chavez in 22nd. Our bottom 4 deciding not to put in a time, which we've seen that a couple of times here where drivers decide not to put a time in and they can climb through the field. Watch out for Zach Hall, John Dart. They're going to be very quick. I'm expecting them to climb through the field. John Dart, he might be aiming for that of a top 15 to a top 10. Zach Hall, I'm curious to see what the 5's going to bring, as he has looked like a threat when he shows up for these races. But Trevor, we're here at Homestead, 130 laps. We got our stage break at lap 40, no fast repairs, 3 extra sets of tires in pit road. What are you expecting to see here in the early goings here at Homestead?
I think we're going to see some people be aggressive, especially some of the playoff drivers that are further back in the qualifying positions, like Rob Sherwood, Aaron Hale, try to get up there and get some solid stage points for themselves before the stage. Tire wear is always going to be a factor in these cars. Only having those 3 sets is going to be huge. And then that fast repair, not having that. So these drivers are going to have to be careful tonight. Watching practice and watching some qualifying, the cars look loose, so these drivers are going to have to definitely be on their toes tonight, especially after what we saw last week or 2 weeks ago at Michigan.
We've seen a lot of wrecks happen to the playoff drivers. I think if we think about last round, the driver that got bullied the most was that of Ken Campbell. He's going to be starting in 3rd place with this front row. You've got that of the rookie of Chris Ditz. Then you got the 2-time champ of Cameron Sarton. Cameron Sarton really starting to look fantastic. He won that of 4 weeks ago at that of New Hampshire. That New Hampshire race was in a very dominant statement for the 24. I'm excited to see, will we see the same run for that of Cameron Sarton? Because one of these playoff drivers, if they win here tonight, they're locked in for that championship race where they get to race at Las Vegas in 2 weeks. So it's time to shine. Who is going to put it on the line to win here tonight? Book your ticket, be set, be ready to go, and we're ready to give you the coverage here. Like I said, 130 laps in total here tonight, but our stage break at lap 40, where our top 10 drivers will get stage bonus points. So you want to be in the top 10 at that positioning. But let's see how the early goings here tonight goes, as you are going to be watching the Rock You Like a Hurricane 195 presented by K-Nugz Sim Paint Shop, and we're green here tonight heading down into turn number 1.
And it's a pretty even start between Stitz and Sarton as they head down into turn 1. Stitz going to dive it all the way to the bottom line. Right behind him, Campbell's going to try to follow suit, get to the inside of the 24 machine of Cameron Sarton out of turn number 2, but Sarton's going to have the momentum on that top side. He's going to claw back on that top line, followed closely by the 42 of Cole Sketty.
As we see these drivers all trying to pick and choose where to go. Ken Campbell's going to be staying down low, but the multi-groove racing, you're already seeing it being shown. The drivers all the way up to the wall, some staying all the way down to that white line. And lap number 1 is going to be led by the 22 of Chris Stitz. And Trevor, gotta say, multi-groove racing, yes, it's great to see all the different lines, but where would you want to see these drivers placing themselves if they have a choice?
You know, it's so hard to tell right now. I think the outside line's going to have the momentum off the corners, but not quite sure what it's going to do to the tires in the long run. Bottom line's probably the safer bet, but for these guys, they're going to put their cars wherever they can to make up as many positions as they can, as the 94 of Altus gets around the 11 of Ross Tatum and followed closely by the 25 of Lucas Lyons and the 2 of Rob Sherwood, all trying to get around the 11 using that outside line.
all trying to make sure that you're moving forward in the right direction. Right now, our Elite 8, the 8 drivers left in the playoffs, are all inside of the top 13 and trying to make sure that they are in a comfortable position to get those bonus points in the top 10 at the end of lap 40 as we're riding on board with that of the 11 machine of Ross Tatum stuck on the inside lane as he's got the 12 of Andrew Medlin to his outside.
It's kind of been Ross's MO throughout the season. Takes it easy on the start of the race, and he really comes into form about 10-15 laps into the run when everybody kind of starts burning their stuff up. Ross usually has saved enough and starts moving back through the field, so I'm not surprised to see him fall back right now, but just got to be careful to not get into any trouble as he tries to let his tires come to him.
Well, even to add on to that a little bit more about Ross Tatum, he's been really trying to learn and hone in on that, backing off strategy. We saw in the early portions of the season, he was backing off so much, he was losing anywhere from 8 to 10 positions and then would not be able to take all those positions back in the longer run. It seems like he's really starting to learn how far back is the sweet spot so they could gain those positions back that he gave up in the early going and gain more. So right now he has lost already that of 5 positions, about to be 6 with this battle for that with Nick Holland.
6, almost make it 7. Will Bustler right there behind him in the 36 as we see the 68 of Nick Holland go around his outside on board right now with 36 machine of Bustler as he tries to figure out if he's going to take it to the outside or go to the inside. Looks like he's going to go up to the top line, not quite able to get a good enough drive through the center there to get alongside the 11. But just lurking right there to his outside is Ross Tatum continues to just kind of let these guys go and run his own pace. And we'll see if that 11 machine can come back through the field as this run progresses.
Talking with some of the drivers beforehand, getting a sense of what the fuel run's looking like. Looks to be about 50 laps is the fuel. So, Trevor, due to the fact that we have these drivers, that stage break at lap 40, these drivers won't worry about fuel, but the tire wear was a talking point that I was hearing a lot. They said about anywhere from 15 to 20 laps is that major swing difference when we're expecting to see the drivers that we're saving be able to gain a lot of time on the drivers that are pushing currently right now.
And I'll be interested to see when these tires do fall off, what it's going to do to these race cars. Everybody looks fairly stable right now. So, and as this run carries on, are these cars going to get loose? Are they going to get tight? It's so track dependent. Usually these cars, once they wear off, I shouldn't say track dependent, driver dependent is the proper term there. But as the run progresses, depending on how you drive it, it's either going to get really tight or really loose. So I'll be interested to see what happens to these drivers once we get to that 15, 20 lap mark.
When and how will they react? As on screen, you're seeing the 5 machine. That's Zach Hall in this number 5 fruit-colored machine as the 5 biggest mover on track, up 6 positions for himself. Decided not to qualify. Started all the way back in 19th position, up to 13th. As we move even behind them, this is where we find that of Aaron Hale, who has not been able to go forward. He is on the tire-saving track, giving up 3 positions, but with the starting as far back as Aaron did in 12th place, he is now 5.3 seconds off our leader. This is not a good place for himself if he's aiming to go finish up in our top 5 at the end of our stage break.
Yeah, and that down to 15th, got to get 5 spots just to get that 1 point for the stage, or 1 stage point when the stage comes out. And if he wants any more than that, he's really going to have to push to catch back up to what is right now Andrew Medlin on that bubble spot for the stage points, but under pressure right now from the 6 of Travis Dart, trying to find a way around that 4 machine down the back straight. It's going to maybe look to the inside, but no, Travis backs off out of it going into turn number 3.
That's the battling that's going on in the back half of the field, but up front inside of our top 5, going to be seeing that of the 15, Ken Campbell in 3rd. He's going to have that of Cole Sacchetti, Christopher Wade, and Lucas Lyons all on top of one another. A good little cluster of drivers staying close, going to be battling with one another to see who can gain the most points here, as that of Lucas Lyons, a non-playoff contender with his 25, one of the best starts that he's had to any race this season that we're seeing right now.
And doing a really good job working that top line, made up a lot of time so far at the beginning of this race. Had a really good run at Talladega in the playoffs a couple weeks back. However, got caught up in a wreck. Was really aggressive there, but doing a really good job working his way through the field right now. See if he can catch that 53 of Christopher Wade. It'll be interesting to see. He's been running that high line pretty much nonstop since the drop of the green flag. So here in the next 4 or 5 laps, Sam, we'll see what the tire wear is going to look like for that 25 machine.
Yeah, I mean, already right now, running about 2 tenths off of our leader, who is that of Chris Stitz. 33.82 was that of Stitz last time, compared to Lucas Lyons, 34.0. So the speed difference, certainly a little bit of an advantage to our leader, but we're starting to see that swing just every little bit now that we are 12 laps in. As up front, it is still that of Chris Stitz. Cameron Sarton's going to be in second, but Chris Stitz still in the playoffs, comes in, our bubble driver in 5th place, just outside of our final 4. And this is a perfect place for him to go, especially in the fact that Chris Stitz, that of Joshua Altus, they both are the first 2 drivers out. But the big advantage that goes to Chris Stitz is the fact that he is only 4 points off of the drivers that are tied of Rob Sherwood and Ross Tatum for that 3rd and 4th place in our final 4.
Yeah, only 4 points back, and right now, Ross Tatum not getting any stage points if this were to end right now. We're running all the way back there in 12th, and his tire-saving mode is... I'll tell you what, I've been watching this battle between Campbell and Sacchetti, and Campbell has not given an inch to that 42 machine. Has kept him pinched on the bottom, and they almost made a little bit of contact down there in turn number 2. And again, Campbell's going to keep that 42 pinched tight on the white line, and I think Sacchetti is getting a little bit fed up with that 15 machine right now.
I mean, we were having a talking point about this before we even went live. I mean, Ken Campbell has been basically the punching bag of the last 2 races of this season, and that's what bounced him out of making our Elite 8. This 15's got to be careful because he could be in a tough spot for himself if he finds being caught in contact, especially with the driver running that low. We're already 14 laps in. I mean, Trevor, those tires, they're not going to stick and be stable as that long. And if you're pinching and being this aggressive, the 42 easily could keep his foot in the throttle and use up that 15 as a bumper.
He could, but I think Campbell knows that Sacchetti's going, trying to make it to the next round of the playoffs. So any damage that the 42 gets from contact with the 15 is just going to hurt the 42. So, I mean, he's got an advantage here. And, oh, man, he is just keeping Sacchetti pinned to the white line. And Sacchetti not able to get the power down, and this has got to be so frustrating as a driver. You're racing a non-playoff guy. He's racing you hard like this. You know you have the faster car, and there's just nothing you can do about it.
You're just stuck on the bottom. You have to just hold your line and do the fact of that pinching effect, that 42 not able to get back on the throttle as soon as he would like, because if he does, he's going to run up into the 15 and falls in line. Now we're going to have to swap up, make a different decision as we ride on board with that of Cole Sacchetti. He was running that white line. Well, Ken Campbell running the same exact line that the 42 was just running. If Cole Sacchetti wants to be a little bit spiteful, he could try to be roughing up the feathers of the 15 and try to pinch him down low.
Let's see what Sacchetti does down here in 3 and 4. Just going to fall in line behind the 15 machine. Not feeling comfortable maybe going to that outside line. As we saw him get a little loose out of turn number 2. And working the wheel out of turn number 4 right here. A little bit smoother on the corner exit. Not as loose as he was out of turn number 2. But trying to find a line down here into 1. He's going to look to the outside, see if he can get the late diamond, get a run on the 15 machine out of turn number 2. It looks like he's going to have that run and be there on the inside going down the backstretch.
It's the run to the inside, but he needs to clear. If he doesn't, he's going to find himself being in the same spot he was just in before. And the 42 dives it down low. Ken Campbell holds his line, but moving up, a little bit of contact, a little bit of ruffling the feathers. And the 42 has to really back out of it and going to lose that one spot now side by side with Christopher Wade and just settle back in and try for the next time around. And if anything, with how much we were talking about how this is a multi-groove racing, right there looked like they were only wanting one lane. Didn't even want to test to go for the middle to higher groove.
Yeah, I think King Campbell's just making a statement that, hey, I'm done being the punching bag these last 3 weeks. If you're going to pass me, you're going to have to work for it. And showing it right there to the 42 of Sacchetti. And Sacchetti, I'm surprised, didn't try to make that outside line work for him. Maybe just not comfortable running up there. Maybe hadn't put in a lot of practice running that outside line. But, man, it cost the 42 a lot of time. And thankfully didn't get any damage from that contact. But that could have been, it could have been big early on for a playoff driver.
It obviously could have been a lot worse than it was, and able to hold on. Where are those drivers for now as we fall back behind for 6th place? That's Rob Sherwood that we see on screen. This too, he has been slowly marching forward. He was one of the drivers that decided to back off, save his rubber. Now the 2 machine up to 6th, up 4 positions now. Looking at his lap times, still about a 10th off of our leader, but slightly faster than Cole Sacchetti and Christopher Wade. But behind that of the 2 machine, this is a duel that's been just starting to bubble up. It's the 11 of Ross Tatum. He is now back up 2 positions. He was he fell back to losing 7 in total. The 11 is on the charge going forward.
Yeah, fell all the way back to 12 at one point. Not surprised at all to see Ross Tatum working his way back through the field. And right at that mark, you were talking about, Sam, 20 laps at 11 machine coming back through the field now after saving his tires. Hopefully timed it just right, didn't lose a lot of ground to these guys and can make this ground up. But right now, looking pretty good for himself.
As well for that of the 11, you got Joshua Altus in the 94 in 8th position, trying to run some pretty consistent times with the 94, running the outside lane. And I've been watching him for the past couple of laps before we swapped our camera over. The 94 got extremely loose at turn 4 just that of 3 laps ago. That loose sensation, I think that's starting to hinder the 94. His confidence level on getting back into the throttle starting to hurt, and he's loose once again out of 4. It's just looking like these tires not happy right now for Joshua Altus.
Yeah, and I think that's, just one of those things of running that outside line. I think that this is just a result of that. These drivers that have been up there, a lot of heat building up in those rear tires, and they're getting loose on corner exit. We saw it there off of turn number 4, 2 laps in a row for the 94 machine. Does a really good job hanging on to that. That's going to affect you. When you get back into the throttle, it's really going to hurt you down the straightaway. And we saw it right there with Zach Hall being able to easily drive past Altus down the front stretch.
Zach Hall, biggest mover so far, up 11 positions. You thought maybe the 5 was going to burn off because of how many positions he gained in the early going, that maybe he was going to start to see a drop off. Well, currently, this 5 machine is technically the second fastest car on track. The fastest car on track is actually the 11 in front of him. Out of Ross Tatum is just a few hundredths faster than this 5 machine.
And Tatum has caught the 2 of Sherwood down here in turn number 3, and he's going to dive it to the inside of that 2 machine and just has so much more grip in the center of the corner, able to get the power down on the corner exit. I think Sherwood might have a little bit of a run here down the front stretch. They're going to be side by side. See what happens here down into 1. Is Tatum going to keep that bottom line? Sherwood's going to keep up there almost to the wall for that 2 machine, but I think Ross is going to get him here on the center and corner exit here out of turn number 2.
The 11 just staying down low, saving those tires, making the inner groove work, as it just looks like that is the comfort zone for these drivers. Currently right now, 24 laps in, about to be 25 laps in. We are past halfway to our stage break, which is going to be at the end of lap 40. Top 10 drivers going to get themselves some bonus points as you are watching the Full Send Racing Series playoff racing action for the start of the round of 8. Here at Homestead, the next race for the round of 8 is going to be at Richmond next week before we set the stage on who is racing for the championship at Las Vegas in just 2 weeks. My name is Sam Dyer. With me, Trevor Earhart here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Big thanks to Rotten Warrior Jr. running productions in the background as these drivers all trying to settle in, as here's the battle that's currently going on for 10th place. It's that of Andrew Medlin, starting to catch up that 94 that continues to go backward.
Yeah, Medlin kind of fell back a little bit from where he qualified, down 2 spots, started 10th, down to 12th, started 9th, down to 11th right now for Andrew. And surprised to see him kind of struggling this early on, but we got a driver came up and looked always focused, but really loose there. See him solid at that wheel, trying to keep that car straight, but the ever-focused Andrew Medlin trying to find a way around the 94 of Joshua Altus, as both drivers looks like they're struggling with that loose sensation.
Yeah, I think the only time that we've seen Andrew Medlin have a non-focused face is when he was racing at super speedways, when they're able to relax just a little bit at times, but the focus is on, and saw that seesaw action of working the wheel. Trevor, we're now 27 laps into this race. We've seen the loose sensation from the 94 plenty on screen. We just saw it from the 12. I mean, it's looking like we were trying to predict on what the trends were going to be. I think we might have found out what our trend was.
Yeah, I think these cars are going to be a little loose for these drivers, and that seems to be the common theme from everybody we've looked at tonight. Is this run as the run progresses, it's really late into the tire state. These guys are going to have a handful. As Medlin again with a big slide out of turn number 4, but it's going to be interesting to see, especially late into this race when we have green flag pit stops where you got to try to woe these things up, and with a loose sensation get to pit road, what's going to happen there? But I think we're gonna be in for a good race tonight. I'll just hang on to it. Woo! Oh, and he saves it out of turn number 2. What a save there from the 94 machine.
He lost it, saved it, and continues to pedal along, but that 94 certainly is not in a comfortable spot, and you do not want to get caught up in a wreck. These drivers do not have a fast repair, and that loose sensation, Joshua Altus has got to hold on somehow. He's now bounced out of the top 10, so no bonus points will be grabbed at our stage break unless you can find some miracle speed and start moving forward. But at this point, Trevor, I'd say the 94 strategy has to be just survive, and I'm surprised he's going right back to that outside lane.
I'm surprised he's going back up there as well, but you're right. You just got to survive. You got to get to the stage, get no damage on your car, and you've got to learn from what did not work for you at the start of this race. Okay, what did I do wrong? Did I overdrive? Is the top lane what's really hurting my tires? You got to figure that out so you can come back in the second stage and try to get back up there in the top 10.
Speaking of drivers inside of the top 10, we're starting to see a little bit of a duel coming around for our leaders. That gap was at one moment over a second in length. It is now down to 0.3. But the true battling that's happening is for that of third place back to that of 6th. There is a good gaggle of cars that are battling around one another. That's Christopher Wade trying to hold off Cole Sacchetti and the fastest driver on track, Ross Tatum, the 11. The strategy has worked in perfectly as he's back to where he qualified. And with being over that of 0.3 faster than our leader, this 11 is putting the pressure and forcing the drivers in front of him to run faster, which means they're catching up to our leader as well.
And they're finally able to get around the 15 of Ken Campbell, and now Sacchetti trying to get past that of Christopher Wade. And Tatum just sitting there being patient, waiting along. Kind of takes me back to Kansas, where he ran the bottom the whole race, didn't deviate from it. Everybody else kind of worked and groove around up high, and the 11 just kept running the bottom, dominated that race, and kind of doing the same thing here. Let everybody go, running his own line, not let anybody dictate where he's going to put his car. And here we see him inside, almost up into the top 5 as he dives into the inside of the 53, Christopher Wade.
Inside, running his little seam there on the inner crew, that black line just above the white, where drivers feel a little bit comfortable there. They feel like they can save some more tires than going all the way down the white line. So we're seeing drivers trying to get as close to that outside wall as possible to arc their way down. And now Ross Tatum up to 4th, and within a second to our leader, our top 4, all within a second of one another. As that of Cameron Sarton's kind of hit a bubble, it seems like, for second place. He's not been able to gain any more positions, and he is just stalled out in second place. This is that of Cole Sacchetti, Ross Tatum. They are on the charge. Christopher Wade's trying to attach to that, as well as Ken Campbell, trying to catch up to our leader. Our top 6, all within a second and a half.
Yeah, all right there, nose to tail, and not too far behind him in 5. Zach Hall's worked his way up to 7th, slowly closing in on this gap. So you almost call it a 7-car battle for the lead. If any of these drivers make a mistake, it's just going to bring the 5 that much closer. But up front, Stitch just trying to hang on, keep that gap consistent to that of Cameron Sarton, about 0.4 of a second back to that 24 machine, who's now coming under pressure from the 42 of Sacchetti.
And also on screen, Rob Sherwood, he's starting to lose touch, and he might fall down to even 9th place, only getting 2 stage points for himself. That is not necessary. He needs to get as many points as possible to make sure he's got a good buffer over that of Chris Stitz, because based on how we're running right now, Chris Stitz could make that swap and force the 2 machine outside of our top 4 after this stage is done, as the 22 has been the dominant driver. He showed some good pace. He has looked patient and has kind of just let the race, that fresh air, go out there, build up a lead, been holding on. But here comes the fast drivers that have been patient, and what a duel we're expecting to see. 6 laps to go before this stage is done.
It's Sacchetti to the inside of that of Cameron Sarton. Sarton went all the way to the wall in turn number 1 and 2, and he'd been following in line behind that of Chris Stitz. Finally decided, hey, I'm going to try something different if I want to get around this 22 again. Takes that 24 machine all the way up to the top groove, almost into the wall, but gets a great run off the corner, gets into the outside wall. The 24 into the outside wall down the front stretch.
And now we were just talking about how important it is not to get any type of damage in the 24 here late. Just trying a very aggressive move, high risk, low reward, and he is going to have some major damage he's going to have to work with. Luckily, the stage break right around the corner, but that means that the 24 Cameron Sarton's going to give up a lot of track position to try to get this damage repaired, as up front, the 24 drops back to 4th, but that holds Sacchetti, Ross Tatum, they're on the charge. They're right on the back bumper of our leader, and this pass for the lead, it might be quick, swift, and watch out for Christopher Wade and Ken Campbell. They could be also thinking about making a couple of more moves.
I'm so surprised Cole Sacchetti still has any tires left on that 42 machine after how hard he raced with that of Ken Campbell and his caution.
Oh no! Wreck on the front stretch. It's the 94 of Joshua Altis.
Oh no, that's not what he needed.
And that officially over the radio from admins, this is the stage. It's the 94, the tires giving out. As we take an instant replay of what brought out this first yellow and what will be our stage break of the night. 94 talked about that looseness. He's already looping it, and he is completely sideways as Chavez comes right to the rear bumper. I don't believe there was any true contact made, but certainly very close as Joshua Altis trying to lock in those brakes. And Trevor, at this point, it's just survival mode. Don't hit anything.
Yeah, at that point, you're just on for the ride. You're hoping that you can get it woed up, lock the brakes, get back on the throttle, do anything you can to keep it out of the wall. And had one great save out of turn number 2. Couldn't quite get that save this time by. Loops it back around on the front stretch, brings out the caution. But thankfully for Altis, no damage done. Unlike that of Cameron Sarton, who got into the outside wall, the 94 able to keep that car out of the wall. And I'm sure he's going to be glad to come in and get 4 fresh tires on that machine.
He certainly will do, as we see that of the 94 able to get back around. Didn't hit anything. Drivers coming into pit road. That means we're going to be having ourselves a quick commercial break. But here's your rundown of the drivers getting those stage points. Winner of the stage going to be that of Chris Stitz. Cole Sacchetti going to get second. Ross Tatum third. Cameron Sarton fourth. That of Christopher Wade gets fifth. Ken Campbell sixth. That of Zach Hall gets seventh. Will Bustler eighth. Ninth goes to Rob Sherwood. And taking that final stage break point goes to Nick Holland. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We will be right back, but you won't miss a thing as we go side by side for some commercial breaks. We'll see you in a few.
You wanted the best, you got them for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. World of Outlaws Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from our commercial break. We are back to Green Flag Racing for the Full Send Racing Series. The first race of the round of 8, as it's going to be that of Chris Stitz, our stage break winner. Going to be taking off camera that of Ken Campbell, Cole Sgetti, Christopher Wade, Rob Sherwood, Ross Tatum. Going to be your top 6 as they're ripping the bottom, ripping the top, everywhere you can go. And here we are. My name's Sam Dyer. Joining me is Trevor Earhart. And Trevor, you got a lot of drivers heading down to turn number 3.
A lot of drivers heading down into turn number 3. The battle for second was pretty tight there for a second as Sgetti get a little bit loose going into turn number 2 or turn number 3. It gives that position up to the 15 of Ken Campbell. And for the 42, Sam, I don't think that's the car that he really wants to see in front of him right now.
No, I would not say that at all. We are right back to where we were, what you could say 20 laps ago when these two drivers were dueling it out. But I would say that of Cole Sgetti might be in a more of a patient mode, recognizing if I just ride behind the 15, rip the bottom, like we saw that Ross Tatum, Zach Hall, they will be in the okay to be making some passes. It's really about who can save those tires for the longer run. But you see that of those two drivers we're just talking about, Zach Hall, Ross Tatum, they're side by side, battling to see who's going to be in that first position of those that were very patient in the early going.
Hey, you're talking about those two running the bottom. Well, Zach Hall deciding not to run the bottom, trying to use that top line to his advantage with these fresh tires, gets around the 11 of Ross Tatum, and this is exactly what Ross did at the start of the race. Drop back a couple positions, just keeping his line, saving those tires. The 5 gets by him right now, the 36 of Will Busser, man, who came up so close to making it to the round of 8 at Michigan. That of 2 weeks ago gets around the 11 on the outside line as Will moves himself up another spot into the 7th position as Ross just continues to just run his pace.
Seeing a little bit of shuffling of drivers behind, and that's, talking about drivers behind, Cameron Sarton. We're talking about it over our commercial break. That 24 clobbered the wall, and Trevor, that 24 is all the way mired back at 18th. There's no driver sideways. That's going to be the 101. Getting to the 3. Joshua Altis goes sliding also on the inside lane. Pandemonium strikes at a turn number, that of 2.
And for Altis, gets nose damage as he hits the inside wall trying to avoid that wreck. Not sure if he got clipped by that of Chavez or the 3 of Ryan Lynch as he tried to get through that wreck, but almost more calamity for playoff drivers as the 24 was also almost involved in that wreck.
As Philip Chavez is going to be seen here on the instant replay of what happened here, as looks like a little bit of what we like to call wind action, and also coming down was the 101, not going all the way up to that outside wall, held more of that middle lane, while the 3 running his own preferred spot as you see the 94 locking up his brakes, trying not to absolutely demolish the 23 of Daniel Keith Jr. And due to trying to do a sacrificial spin, finds himself locking it down. And Trevor, like you said, coming into that inside wall, not where you want to get that nose damage.
Yeah, it's going to hurt the 94 machine. Didn't hit it a ton, but these cars are so aero sensitive, especially these 1.5-mile tracks. That is damage that Josh is going to just have to deal with for the rest of this race, along with the damage that we saw Cameron Sarton get right before the end of the stage. But, it's kind of one of those things. You try to avoid the car in front of you. Would have had heavy damage if he ran over the back of Daniel Keith Jr. And just unfortunately, when he stabbed the brakes, the car just snapped on him, and at that point, you're just along for the ride.
Yeah, it's kind of the pick of two evils. Which one's going to be the least minimal damage to yourself? And for Altis, that was hitting the inside wall at minimal speed. But, back to what we were talking about before that incident came around. Cameron Sarton back in 14th position. This 24 was racing up front, was in our top 3 for majority of that stage 1. Now going to be back here in traffic, Trevor. We were trying to figure out how is this damage going to affect that 24. It was hard to tell. He wasn't moving forward. He wasn't going backwards. He just held stable there. And just those first couple of laps we saw in that restart.
It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with Cameron Sarton there, especially with that damage. About 30 seconds that he had to stay on pit road to get that machine fixed. So we'll see how bad that's going to affect him. Thankfully for Cameron, he came in plus 12 to the cutoff line, so 12 points over Chris Stitz to start the night. Did get stage points, so that's helpful for our 2-time champ. But he's got a long way to go with the damaged race car before the end of the night.
And now added with them is Joshua Altis, who's already struggling with the tire wear on that first stage. Now is going to have to deal with some front-end damage. That's 2 of our 8 playoff drivers that are still racing. And driver that came in to top off on fuel It's actually going to be the 2 machine of Rob Sherwood, teammate of Joshua Altus from SMB Motorsports. Those 2 drivers really were aggressive on the outside lane. Curious on how they're going to now, for at least the 2 of Rob Sherwood, who we've seen be very good at, with speed. He's been finding the clutch factor here recently. He's now going to be back in 17th place. Kind of odd to see 3 of our 8 playoff drivers mired in the back half of the field.
And 2 with damage, 1 with the fuel strategy. So we'll see how that works out for Sherwood here. We were talking about it. 50 laps is what these drivers think they can go on fuel. So we were thinking pit window probably in that lap 80 to 90 range. So with Sherwood topping off, we'll have to see how much longer that 2 machine can go. But with the tire wear that we were seeing, Sam, I don't know if running those extra couple of laps that this pit stop's going to give him is going to be beneficial to that 2 machine.
I mean, it could in the long run in some ways. You think about how much we've been seeing the tire drop off be after 20 laps. If you can get an extra 2 to 3 laps of good tire wear, it might be worth it to get a splash here and then extend that time that you're out there on old tires. But again, the give and take that you're really risking with on these few, if we get a long run and go into green flag pit stops, it is always a risk on trying to stay out the longest of everyone else because of how much time you give up. But we're about to get back to green flag racing for these drivers. We talked about 3 of our 8 playoff drivers and where they are there in the back half of the field. Well, the other 5 are actually inside of our top 10. The one that is the furthest down is Aaron Hale, who's up 3 positions from where he qualified. That 4 machine currently in 9th place, while the other 4, they're in our top 4. You got Chris Stitz, Ken Campbell. They're up in our top 5. You got that of Chris Stitz, Christopher Wade, Cole Sacchetti going to be up there as well. Excited to see how are we going to be seeing, how's Aaron Hale going to struggle up front? Or will there be any struggle as the 4 being patient with how he wants to run up here?
Yeah, Aaron, just kind of like what we touched on during qualifying, the 4 machine, just somebody that we don't talk a lot about, just really runs at his own pace, and then at the end of the race, you look up and, he's in the top 10, in the top 5. Somebody you don't talk about all night long, and here he is again, just quietly inside the top 10 as we get ready for this restart, just running his race.
That other playoff driver, Ross Tatum, in 8th position, the 11. He's been patient, but he needs a long green flag run for that patience to work out as we're back to green flag racing for Rock You Like a Hurricane 195 as we're going to be seeing Andrew Medlin on the outer groove with that of Nick Holland. That of the 68 has been willing to roll on the outside lane, but we know that's only going to work for about 5 laps before the tires truly drop off. And here we go on the aggressive racing on the multi-groove racing racetrack.
And Holland just drives past that of the 11 of Ross Tatum, the 12 of Medlin, trying to use that outside line. He's doing battle with the 4 of Aaron Hale right behind that of Tatum, and right behind them you got Travis Dart in the 6, and then the 33 of Bruchette and Lucas Lyons. Lyons did a really good job driving up through the field, got up to 7th at one point before his tires fell off and he fell back through the field. So the 25 could be a little aggressive here, see if he can work his way back up there, but running the bottom this time around instead of the top.
Yeah, right on board with that of the 33 of Brian Burchett, and you also see the 25. That's Lyons. It's on screen. Those 2 drivers, they're only 3 in line, the 25, 33, and the 24. All drivers that have gotten into the wall at some point here tonight. Done a great job getting the repairs. The draft also helping them to stay here battling for that 10th place, as that was a close one by that of the 33 and the 25.
Yeah, that was almost big contact between those 2 drivers. Keep it off of each other. Right behind them, Sarton right there in the 24, just kind of chugging along there in the 14th position, trying to see what he can do, suss out how bad the damage is going to hurt that machine, but just right behind the 33, following Bruchette down here into turn number 3.
Something we have not talked about at all, and that's for the lead. Christopher Wade, the 53 machine, one of those drivers we talked about that was under the radar. He now wants to be in the spotlight. Christopher Wade taking the lead point from that of Chris Stitz.
A clean pass down the front straightaway, got it done down into turn number 1. Gonna have him completely cleared and try to pull away from him here out of turn number 2. And this is the first time Stitz has really been pressured all night long. And Wade now up front in that clean air. We'll have to see how good that 53 machine is going to be. And for Christopher Wade, I mean, he's had such an up and down season. He's shown speed, been caught up in incidents, had some bad luck. The consistency, in these playoff runs has been up and down, but right now doing what he needs to do. And if he can get the win here tonight, going to lock himself in and knock that of possibly Sherwood or Ross Tatum, into that bubble spot.
with the way drivers have been running, it would be, I believe, that Rob Sherwood that would be in that questionable position to be bounced out, and he's got to be careful for himself as Ross Tatum had a very strong end to his stage. He got those 8 bonus points for finishing in third place at the end of our stage, which was back at end of lap 40, right before lap 40, I should say, when we had that first caution come out here this evening. But we are 55 laps in. These drivers are on a tear as we're closing into halfway here in just about that of 10 laps. And drivers that are picking and choosing how they want to run. Well, the biggest mover right now, Zach Hall, he has been on the charge for the 5. Now that of the second biggest mover of the night, that's where we find that of the 68 behind Zach Hall. That's where we find Nick Holland. He has been slowly moving forward for that Taco Bell machine, and the aggressive driving on these tires has been working out so far in the early going.
Yeah, it's good to see Nick Holland up there having a good run for himself as the battle for third now heats up, and here we go again. Sam, round number 2. That of Sacchetti, that of Ken Campbell. And Campbell doing the same thing. Not as aggressive this time around. Didn't really pinch that of Sacchetti all the way down to the white line. It might actually end up losing this place here down the back straightaway.
And with that little bit more of a patience approach, it's going to allow that 42 to dive down low, but a very aggressive surge. Keeping the speed up was the 15 of Ken Campbell. Going to be putting the hard pinch on the exit of corner. Well, we thought maybe they were being patient with one another. Take it back. That was a very aggressive 3 and 4 by Ken Campbell.
Yeah, I thought Campbell was just going to kind of let the 42 go, but just drives it down into turn number 3. And again, here we go again with the hard pinch down to the white line, getting the 42 upset. And for the 5 of Zach Hall, he's just got to sit here and watch this and figure out where he wants to go, which line he thinks is going to be preferred, or does he take it all the way to the wall and try to make it 3 wide on these guys?
I mean, it's difficult to even be. I think Zach Hall's probably one of the most dangerous positions because the 42, as you can see there, has to back out. But if he's not aware of the drivers behind him, the 42 easily could just drift up into where the 5 is, being an innocent victim to the battling between 2 different drivers in front. But Zach is trying to rip the top now. He is trapped there because he needs to make this pass quickly if he wants to get back to the bottom. As these 5 up now 15 positions, decided not to qualify, and it hasn't really hurt him with where he's placed right now.
No, and that's kind of been Zach only being a part-time driver this season. He's come in, and especially in the playoffs, just decided to start in the back, kind of keep himself out of the way of these playoff drivers in the first couple of laps of the race, let them sort themselves out, and then work his way patiently through the field. And done a really great job these last couple of races, is racing these playoff guys with a ton of respect and giving them plenty of room, and now seeing him all the way up into 4th. I mean, that 5 machine looking strong here again tonight.
As we are seeing all the drivers around here going high, going low. Zach Hall is going to be ducking it low. Nick Holland finding himself on the inside of Will Bustler. Bustler's trying to make this pass work for himself. But we look at the ticker board. That shifting that's going on for that 3rd goes to the 5. But what I want to put note on is for the lead, Christopher Wade, he built up a gap over a 2nd at one moment. The 53 now starting to be reeled back in by Chris Stitz and the rest of the field.
Yeah, about a 10th slower than that of Chris Stitz that last lap, and almost 2 tenths slower than that of Zach Hall on that last lap. So the 53 machine used a lot of his tires to get up there and get that lead, try to build that gap. We'll have to see if he can hold on to it once the 22 and the 5 close in on him, and see how much of his tires did he burn up. Probably trying to build that gap before the pit stops come in, but he's still got about 20 laps to go, 25 laps to go before we get to that green flag pit stop.
And when will the drivers decide to come in, especially on the fact that we did have that quick caution come out? How much will that influence this fuel run? I know that's going to give the drivers at least a couple of laps to a buffer to work with. And how many drivers were on the aggressive saving. We talked about, Rob Sherwood coming in, topping off on fuel. He's still mired back in 14th place. And also, for that of Cameron Sarton, he's battling actually with Rob Sherwood. As we're seeing that on screen now as Joshua Altus had that nose damage. He's still racing with the other drivers that have caught up damage at some point. It's Rob Sherwood that's got the quote-unquote cleanest car out there with this group that he's racing around.
And you can see how much that nose damage is really hurting the 94 down the straightaway. He does a good job keeping up with that of the 24 of Sarton in the turns, but just here on the straightaway, even with the draft help, the 94 just doesn't have that straight line speed with that nose damage that the other guys have. So slowly going to lose touch, I believe, with that of Sarton, Sherwood, and Lucas Lyons in front of them, but just doing everything he can to just survive the rest of the night and get the best finishing position he can.
As we now are going to be 20 laps of green flag racing on these tires for these drivers. This was that swing phase that we were starting to see. Drivers that were saving their tires, starting to get a little bit more momentum for themselves. And the driver that led that momentum swing was Ross Tatum, mired all the way back in 10th place. And you just see a glimpse of it there as the two was trying to get by that of Aaron Hale. But this 11 Trevor, he's fallen back even deeper than I was expecting. I thought he was going to maybe stay around that 8th, 9th position. He decided to go all the way back to 10th. He's still within, 3 seconds of our leader, but kind of surprising how far back he decided to go this go around.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought he would stay, in that 7th, 6th, 7th position, be a little bit more aggressive this run. But again, just running his race, not going to be bothered by what other drivers are doing around him. And you see it right here. Already caught back up to the 12 of Medlin. Going to dive it to his inside, try to get that position back. That's a battle for the 9th right now. And that last lap by for that of Ross Tatum was a 10th quicker than that of Andrew Medlin, and was almost running the same lap time as our leader, Christopher Wade.
Was very close to the same lap time as Christopher Wade. And even this lap that went on by, even with the pass, he was faster than Christopher Wade. But Wade, on the other hand, he's starting to go backwards. Another driver that's starting to show a lot of struggle that's inside of our top 10. That is in 5th place, Ken Campbell. He has no longer been able to hold off Cole Sacchetti, the 15, starting to show signs of weakness here. He's trying his best to get that position back from Cole Sacchetti for 4th, but we saw this on during stage 1. The 15 really did not look good on that of the long run.
Yeah, and it wasn't so much that he looked loose. It just looked like he kept overdriving the corner, lost a lot of speed in the center and corner exit there in that 15 machine. And kind of the same story here. Once Sacchetti got around him in the first stage, he dropped back a couple positions. And again, right here, Sacchetti's gotten around him. And now the 15 of Campbell coming under pressure from that of Nick Holland in the 68 is, again, just drives it in really hard into turn number 3. Going to have to give up a lot of speed through the center of the corner. And it's going to continue to hurt the pace of that 15 machine.
And as we're starting to see that Taco Bell machine of Nick Holland close in, that of Will Bustler still willing to run that middle lane. I think he's just trying to find some fresh air to put on that front grill. Hopefully helping with that turn for that of the 36 and a little bit of extra speed for himself on the outer lane, but starting to lose some traction for himself. Looking at some of the pace speeds that last lap though, that of Christopher Wade, he built up the gap lead, but now he's starting to plateau with Chris Stitz on where they want to take off. Get a little bit of give and take on one lap. He's trying to be fastest to 53. Next lap, he's trying to, save his tires, trying to figure out that sweet spot for themselves. As it is that time, we are past halfway for these drivers, which gives us a moment as we're all single filed out, about to make some passes here and there. It's time for us to give some thanks to some of our sponsors here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Drivers out there on track, it is time to start thinking about when you're going to come into pit road, and equipment that can help you out from that of iRacing iFlag is their digital pit board. Their digital pit board at iRacing iFlag is one of their more amazing equipments that you can purchase. They've also got their patented iFlag virtual flag system, but their digital pit board allows you to have that of data of how many laps of fuel you have left remaining, what your usage has been for the past 5 laps, as well as much more, such as what the track temperature is, what the ambient temperature is, and plenty of other great data to help you be the best driver out there on track. And if you want to go get yourself a digital pit board from iRacing iFlag, remember to use our discount code FreakyFast2022. As on screen, starting to see that battle heating up for 5th place. That of Nick Holland right there on the back bumper, and Ken Campbell about to be a little bit more nervous here, Trevor, as we ride on board 68.
Yeah, Holland trying to get that late R, gets a little loose though there out of turn number 2, and still fighting that machine on the corner exit. He's going to lose a lot of momentum here, and that's going to allow 36 now Will Bustler to look to the inside of Nick Holland. So Holland goes from trying to get around that of Ken Campbell to now battling, hold on to that 6th position with Will Bustler to his inside. And as these two battle, that's just going to allow the 11 of Ross Tatum to close this gap in on these 2 drivers. These 3 drivers is Holland doing everything he can to hold off that 36 machine right now as they head off into turn number 1.
Down into turn number 1, and And with Colin having to move up, you see that seesaw in action on the wheel, going left, right, trying to make sure that the car continues to point in the right direction. That is while battling with that 36 machine. Behind them, Ross Tatum is on the move, running just as fast as our leader, trying to keep it within the range of 2.5 to 3 seconds is Ross Tatum, but he's starting to get into that zone where he was much faster. But looking at the times here, Trevor, they're looking not as dramatic as what we were seeing during our first stint. I think that also can be attributed to us having those cautions coming out, but at the same time, this 11 is not having the same surge I think he was hoping to have like he did last time.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. Like you touched on, the lap time is really kind of consistent within our top 10. About a tenth and a half between all these drivers is, and for that of Tatum, just not what he wants to see. He needs that fall off to be a little bit more for him to move up and gain this track position that he lost. Restarted, I believe, 6th or 7th, and now all the way back here in 8th. Was back to 10, so he's got 2 of those spots back, but just trying to make up as much ground as he can here before we hit these green flag pit stops.
Which, speaking of green flag pit stops, we're thinking about that a lap at 90 is when driver's going to aim for. Could go a little bit further than that, but with the fuel run that we were given, around that of 50 laps these drivers can go, meaning that around lap 81 is technically when this fuel stint can open up and drivers can make their pit stop and take it to the end. But Trevor, I'm not expecting very many drivers to try to make that early undercut pit stop.
Yeah, I don't think the undercut is going to be the best play in tonight. We've seen how loose these cars get as these tires wear out, so being out there that long on those old tires, not going to be to your benefit. As right here we watch the 4 of Aaron Hale try to get around that of the 12 of Andrew Medlin. Right behind him, you've got the 24 of Sarton, who's trying to recover after all that damage that he got from smacking the outside wall on the front stretch. And for Sarton, just hasn't been able to make up as much ground as he wanted. The damage, I think, a little bit too much for that 24 machine.
It certainly did help the fact that there was a wreck in front of him, so he gained a couple of positions that way, but obviously that damaged too much. Aaron Hale, though, on the other hand, he started on that last restart up in 9th place. He's fallen back to 12th, 13th at one time. The 4 starting to go forward as looking at the times throughout the field, everyone's running pretty similar lap times. There's no definite, okay, this driver is the fastest driver on track. But this 4 machine trying to gain as many positions as he can as Rob Sherwood now going to move up to 9th place. That's a good sign from the 2. The fact that he's cracked the top 10, or the fact that he decided to top off on fuel, able to go another 9 to 10 more laps than everyone else. This 2 machine trying a very risky call.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how this is going to work out for Rob Sherwood here. Came in on that caution when his teammate got into the inside wall, topped off on fuel. And now going to be, like you said, going to be a little bit longer than these guys. He's going to have the freshest tires at the end of the race, provided there's not a late race caution. So for Sherwood, playing this long game here and seeing if he's going to have the overall speed to make the strategy work. I'm going to be really interested to see how this works out for him.
As we're seeing the 6th machine, Travis Dart going to be in 10th place, running well for himself as drivers all having to make their decisions. When do you come into pit road? When do you not? For us up in the booth, though, we're going to be taking ourselves a quick commercial break as we will come back and take you to the end of this stint. You are watching the Full Send Racing Series, the first race of the round of 8. For that of the Rock You Like a Hurricane 195, presented by K-Nugz Sim Paint Shop. And we're giving you all the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back in just a few moments, but you won't miss a thing as we go side by side. wrecking, they're splitting, and it's a complete mayhem.
We have a wreck at the front. 19 goes down into the 7, takes out the 00.
They're 5 wide behind for fifth. Oh my, the 5 wide here, this ain't gonna work, is it? They're already wrecking into turn 1, and now coming through that of turn 2. This is it, the Daytona. Oh no, they're wrecking contact. Sets gets into the wall, gonna be scattering on the outside. Drivers on the apron, drivers coming out of nowhere. Edison on the outside, trying to get the win. And it's William Edison stealing it at the line.
Into the wall. The 18 trying to block. 77 get into the 18. That leaves 3 of TJ Roberts. 17 to Gavin Rogers. 3 of TJ Roberts is gonna steal the win here.
What second fiddle so many times last season. Christopher Wade wins the season 5 Daytona 200. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Full Send Racing Series on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Trevor Earhart, Rod Moyer Jr. running productions in the background, as this is the first race of the round of 8 for Rock You Like a Hurricane 195, presented by K-Nugz Sim Paint Shops. As drivers starting to trickle into pit road, we're expecting the big gaggle of them thinking about pit stops here in the next 3 laps. And Trevor, driver on the move. We got a few of them. But that Ross Tatum, he's done a fabulous job. He's now up to 3rd.
Yeah, not at all surprised to see Ross back up here in the 3rd. We saw it in stage 1. Doing it again here as this run progresses. Now going to go for 2nd as he tries to get around the 42. Siketti going to make that pass look really easy down into turn number 1. Get that done before they even get to that of turn number 2 to move the 11 up to 2nd. Sam closing in on these green flag pit stops, and this is the time. We've seen pit road issues before, and for these playoff drivers, you got to get on and off pit road cleanly here if you want to, keep your track position and have a shot at getting the win here. Siketti's going to bring that 42 machine down pit road.
Into pit road, driving that of 140 miles per hour. You got to drop down to just 50 for that of pit entry. Don't get caught speeding, and don't make any mistakes sliding in or out of your box. You've already had that of a handful of drivers already come into pit road. Currently, that 42 doesn't get caught speeding. Obviously, you need to come into pit road. The early pit stop, the undercut. We were just talking about it before we went to commercial break. Not sure if this is the right call for the 42 machine, but could be it with the way that we're seeing the gap between himself and Christopher Wade was starting to shrink, trying to get at least some type of advantage over that 53 machine.
Yeah, and thankfully for that of Siketti come in as the leader in the points, so has that points buffer to try to a little bit of a riskier strategy as we see that of Ross Tatum bring that 11 machine down pit road. So he's going to come in from that 2nd position, get fresh tires. And I'm surprised to see that of Chris Stitz still out there. He's starting to fall back there toward those last couple of laps from Christopher Wade. Got passed by Siketti and Tatum. The 22 deciding to stay out a little bit longer and see if those fresher tires toward the end of the green flag cycle is going to work out for him. As our leader, Christopher Wade, brings that 53 machine down pit road.
And Christopher Wade could not afford to give up any more time to that of the 42 or the 11. And this was right around that window we were talking about in lap 90 to 91. We were expecting a lot of drivers to hit pit road, but I think surprisingly, in some ways, but not in others, that caution that came out allowing the drivers to go a little bit further than lap 90. That's what we're seeing. Stitz, Campbell, Zach Hall, as well as Sherwood and Hale all decided to stay out for now, but it's Rob Sherwood that's in that questionable spot where we don't know how far will the 2 decide to go stay out for this run, as that 53 4 tires fuel in is taking off. No driver's been caught speeding. Doesn't mean it can't happen as Stitz hits pit road now.
Stitz followed by Campbell, and they both bring their 2 machines down pit road along with the 12 Vander Bedlin to get their final what could be their final pit stop of the night here. And that of Zach Hall, Sherwood, Hale, Cameron Sarton, Ryan Lynch, Altus, Chavez still yet to bring their cars to pit road, but Sherwood, the wild card out there, came down, got his fuel topped off along with that caution, can stay out a couple more laps than everybody else. So we'll have to see how long that 2 machine is going to be out there on the racetrack.
Know that the 2 cannot make it. Same for the 94 and the 101. All still needing to come to pit road. Yes, they can pit. They made their last pit stop they came in for was the last caution. That 45 laps ago compared to everyone else that's just coming in. Aaron Hill, that came starting now hit pit road. Zach Hall in the 5 still out on track. with Rob Sherwood, Ryan Lynch, Altus, and Philip Chavez all still needing to come into pit road to see the 22 being passed, put a lap down, trying to get that lap back.
Yeah, and right now you got to be really careful getting around these drivers on these old tires. With these fresh tires, we've seen it before. Flat traffic causing chaos, fresh tires causing chaos for these drivers. As Zach Hall is going to bring that 5 machine down pit road to get his service done. He's going to leave Sherwood out there along with Ryan Lynch and Altus and Chavez as the only drivers still yet to make their pit stops. Colson Petty right now in the 42 would be leader over that of Christopher Wade of our drivers that have already made their pit stops. And Travis Dart, he came in, I believe he was one of the first drivers on pit road. So Travis Dart technically running second of our drivers that have already made their pit stops.
Yeah, and right now trying to just hold off for the best that he can, but a 6-lap difference between that of Travis Dart compared to the majority of the drivers that have come into pit road. So that is a tough spot to be in, but yellow flag comes out, caution, and it's the 4 of Aaron Hale that spun around.
And another playoff drivers with issue here tonight as the 4 machine spins it around, but this is exactly what Rob Sherwood wanted to see. Still yet to make his pit stop. Now going to have all this track position over these drivers who've already made their pit stops and going to have the freshest tires, that 2 machine.
And what makes it terrible for Aaron Hale, he had just came into pit road. There was cold tires and the car just did not react the way that he was expecting. As we take an instant replay on what brought out this most recent yellow, and you see there, gets loose on the entry of the corner. And I believe he might have hit a bump there that just rattled the 4, and he was chasing it all the way up into the wall.
Yeah, just got loose on corner entry, had to chase it all the way up the racetrack, almost had it saved. Just a little bit of an overcorrect there, and the car just snaps back into the outside wall. Major contact to the right side of that machine into the outside wall and slides it back down the racetrack. Thankfully, everybody able to avoid him, but brings out the caution. And that's going to shake up the pit strategy and the field here on what these drivers are going to do.
And all drivers were given 3 extra sets of tires. And for those that had already pitted under that green flag stint before the yellow flag came out, they are left with just 1 set of tires to work with. And you don't want to use your last set at this point. You want to make sure you still have that last set. So, meaning we're going to be seeing a mixed bag of drivers on where their tires are at when we go into this restart. But those with the freshest rubber, it's going to be that of Ryan Lynch, Rob Sherwood in the 2 machine, as well as Travis Dart, Nick Holland, all coming into pit road, going to get repairs, and also going to be getting themselves some tires. And the 2 of Rob Sherwood, I took another look at the 2 machine. He grabbed some right side damage during that run, and some massive damage than I was expecting to see.
Oh, that's going to cost him some time on pit road as he gets that fixed and a little bit of performance. I mean, we've seen how much that affected that of Cameron Sarton, that right side damage. So for Sherwood, going to have the freshest tires, but going to have a damaged race car. So we'll have to see what's going to happen to him. But Travis Dart electing to come down and take his last set of tires along with the 68 of Nick Holland electing to come down. Both those drivers used their last set of tires for the evening, and could be a good strategy play, but if there's a late race caution, those 2 could really be in some trouble. Have to wait and see how that strategy is going to work out for them.
Late race cautions could come out, and as well, if cautions don't come out and you need an admin to help you out, well, hopefully they've got this device. It's called the Admin Box. The Admin Box is a button box, premium button box that allows you to plug, set, and go for any decisions that you need on track. If that's a clear black flag, if that's throw a yellow flag out, the button box is allowing you to have the power in your fingertips as it allows you to be the best admin of race control. For leagues or hosted races, they've got you covered. And if you want to get yourself an admin box, it's great even just as a driver if you want to change up, if you want to use your fast repair, if you want to just take on left or right side tires, anything you want to plug and set it to, the admin box is there for you. And use our discount code FFB-BOXX. That's FFB-box with 2 X's at the end when you are purchasing from the Admin Box. Also want to give a shout out, holiday season right around the corner. That means you might be looking for some last minute gifts. And if you've got some people, yourself or someone else you know that likes to watch Freaky Fast Broadcasting, well, get yourself some Freaky Fast Broadcasting merch. I'm actually wearing my t-shirt right now that I've gotten, and I gotta say, it feels fantastic. It's light, it's refreshing, and it also is great quality. Go get yourself a Freaky Fast Broadcasting t-shirt, and because it's the winter and fall season, hey, might as well get a hoodie as well. at your purchase. Thank you so much to everyone that helps us be sponsored throughout, and as well sponsors for the leagues themselves, as that of the Lap Traffic Podcast, one of the major sponsors here, and ButtKicker for that of the Full Send Racing Series. But Trevor, we're about to get back to green flag racing. Tons of different strategies out there on track. But it's going to be Joshua Altus deciding to come into pit road for the 94. 8th on back, all deciding to get a little bit of top off or some damage or even just repairs for themselves.
It's going to be super interesting to see what happens. Everybody now stacked back up on top of each other. We've got drivers on the tire difference, though it's minimal, could be the difference in this. Sacchetti pitted on lap 88, Christopher Wade pitted on lap 90, Stitz pitted on 91, Zach Hall on lap 93. So just our top 7, the difference in tires there. And then all the guys who came in on this caution to get fresh tires right behind them. So this is going to get interesting as we get ready for the restart.
Also got some drivers deciding to take the wave around to make sure they are back on track and back on the lead lap. All 21 drivers that started this race still out on the racetrack as we are green with Cole Sacchetti down into turn number 1.
And Sacchetti got a great restart there, was able to clear that of Christopher Wade. Ross Tatum jump out to about a 0.3 of a second gap there over those two, but Wade does a really good job of getting clear of the 11 of Ross Tatum. Now going to try to chase down that of Sacchetti, try to get back into that lead position. See if he can pull that gap that he was able to do right after the stage break to the field. But the battle for third heating up between the 11 of Tatum and the man who dominated the first stage, that of Chris Stitz.
Chris Stitz going to be having some of the freshest tires of those inside of our top 5. The number 5 machine, though, Zach Hall has the freshest tires of all of those up front. The first driver that came into pit road going to be still mired back in 8th place where Travis Dart finds himself. But here comes the 22, recognizing it is time to go. And Ross Tatum, he doesn't let off. It is time to figure out how he wants to roll with this strategy. It is going to be a quick one. Not as much as tire saving as we were expecting. It's going to be a quick 30-lap dash for that of the 11 machine. But he's still going to be figuring out how to protect these tires and stay in striking distance. This is where the 11 skills of tire saving has to show and shine the most.
Yeah, this is going to be such a balancing act for these drivers. You got a 30-lap run. You can't go into full tire conservation mode like you were able to do in the first half of this race. You've got to be aggressive at the same time, save those tires so you can make those passes toward the end of the race. And for Ross, doing everything he can to hold off that of Chris Stitz in the 22. Zach Hall now going to look to the outside of that 22 machine in the 5 here coming out of turn number 4.
Trying to rip that outside lane. How can it work for that 5 machine? Just not able to really make a pass. And now you got to be thinking for Zach Hall. Yes, he wants to be aggressive. He's got the fresher tires, but is it more willing to just stay behind the 22, still be in striking distance, and see if the 22 is going to be that spear to make some big moves so that you can try to save your tires and not have to be the aggressor on the outside, burning up that advantage that you have, really throwing it away. But they've also got to be careful because behind them, Will Bustler, Ken Campbell, and the driver with the freshest of tires, Travis Dart's trying to rip that 3rd lane.
And Dart using that fence, getting a good run down the back or the front straightaway here, but just nowhere to go for that 6 machine as he almost runs into the back there. Will Bustler, Ken Campbell going to the inside, Stitz all the way up the racetrack in front of them. That's going to allow the 5 of Zach Hall to get to his inside. Stitz going to lose a little bit of time here. Dart, meanwhile, trying to find a way around that of Bustler as Ken Campbell is able to clear the 36.
And you saw that orange and black machine darting to the inside. That's Joshua Altus, who moves up to 9th position for the 94. And 94, as that of Lions holds on. A little loose out of turn 4, but drivers decided to come in, take tires with the damage that these drivers have right now. Curious on how that's going to work out for themselves. As a little bit of blinkage up front, Chris Stitz, hoping that he does not have any internet issues, and a couple of other drivers getting notified as that Travis Dart gets into the outside wall, which forcing drivers to dash to the inside lane. It is getting crazy back in that middle groove. But weather conditions in IRL, how is that going to affect the drivers? Will some of these drivers get bounced out of the server? That's going to be questions here for the final 30, that of 20, final 26 laps of this race.
Just everything these drivers have to think of inside the sim, tire wear, fuel, drivers around you. What are you going to do in the final stages, let alone having to worry about what's going on outside of what your control, having to worry about if the power's going to go out, if you're having a good run, what might happen. Just adds to the intensity that is already ramping up here in this race. Is Altus, with the damage in that race car on those fresh tires, able to use that outside line to his advantage. This is a battle for what is 8th and 9th position, going to easily get around that of Will Bustler and now attack the 6 of Travis Dart down into turn number 1. Those fresh tires for the 94 machine, making that car look like it has no damage whatsoever, Sam.
It is crazy to see, but at some point there will be a tire drop-off, and that's where the power on the straightaways could be hurting the 94. But battling up front, starting to show as Cole Sacchetti, Christopher Wade, they are on top of one another for the lead. And Ross Tatum, Zach Hall, Chris Stitz, they're starting to close in on our leaders.
Yeah, top 5, 6. 6 cars basically all nose to tail here as they've all stacked up on one another. We're going to have a 6-car fight here for the lead. And right now it's just kind of figure out where do you want to go. We see Zach Hall looking to the inside of the 11 of Ross Tatum. Tatum still just running his groove right there on the seam. Zach can't go anywhere. Wade up to the rear bumper of that of Sacchetti into turn number 3, but just nowhere for the 53 machine to go as everybody up here just stuck running the bottom except for that 11 machine who's just running that half a groove higher than everybody else, but there's just nowhere for anybody to go.
Nowhere to go, but I think it's at this point you're just waiting for a mistake to be shown, and Zach Hall trying to poke the bumper, get it underneath the 11, force that of Ross Tatum to go a little bit higher than he would like, burn up some of that rubber, and allow the 5 to push forward as he continues to run that smooth lane that he wants to be in. But at the same time, if these drivers get too aggressive, they've got to be a little bit concerned on the fact that if they get too racy, they burn off these tires, they start to see a major drop-off. Those drivers from 7th on back, Travis Dart, Joshua Altus, if they don't get too much damage from racing one another, they could be on a brink to try to make that late surge to come at these front 6 that are all in line and trying to pull away.
And Travis Dart and Joshua Altus back there battling with each other for 7th and 8th, only about a second and a half back from our leader of Cole Sacchetti. Only about that of 3 or 4 tenths back behind that of Ken Campbell in the 15, as Campbell's now been able to catch up to this group, so make that our top 6 now, all nose to tail. And there's just nowhere for any of these guys to go. They just keep stacking up on one another, trying to figure out who's going to make the first mistake and who's going to be able to get to the inside of the driver in front of them.
And because of the stack up, that's allowing the 5 really to put his nose underneath the driver in front of him and force them higher than they want to be. But I think Zach Hall recognizing, okay, because of the stack up with how slow these drivers are running, I need to run a little bit higher, get back into the throttle sooner, and make a surge on the back stretch. And here he goes to the inside. Christopher Wade, late block by the 53. They are able to get to the inside of Cole Sacchetti, and Sacchetti's perfect run to hold off everyone else not looking good as we're coming to 20 laps to go. The 42, the 53, side by side for the lead, and they need to get this figured out quickly because the fastest driver on track and on the move, it's Nick Holland back in 8th, trying to make the pass for 7.
And Nick Holland, one of those drivers that came in, took a set of tires. His last set of tires is, a little bit of contact between Wade and Sacchetti. Sacchetti way out of shape down the backstretch. Saves it, though, but that's going to stack them up. And Wade still trying to work that inside line on the 42 machine. We've seen the outside line pitching that bottom line. Almost disastrous for 2 playoff drivers there. But at the same time, that caused the 5, Zach Hall, to check up enough that allows Ross Tatum to get to his inside. We're side by side, 1st through 4th.
Side by side, 2 rows deep, as now it's going to be Chris Stitz trying to figure out where he wants to go. Again, all 6 of these drivers, all different tire stints because they all came into pit road stacking one lap after another under a green flag scenario, green flag pit stops before the late yellow kind of shook things up, meaning all these drivers on different sets of tires. Zach Hall has the freshest of our top 6, but he needs to be patient. Doesn't want to take that advantage and throw it away. He is just trying to slowly take each position if he can, as Cole Sacchetti holds that outside lane, and Zach Hall now is at the quarter panel.
Zach Hall going to dive into the inside down here into turn number 1. Run that white line and able to clear that of Sacchetti. Sacchetti struggling a little bit right now, but Zach looking good. And this is a wild card driver right here, non-playoff driver. If he gets the win, takes it away from one of our playoff guys that can lock them into the next round, that means we could potentially go into Richmond next week with none of our top 8 locked into the final round of the playoffs. And for Christopher Wade, he comes in 13 points out of the top 4 tonight. If this 5 machine wins, that could really hurt the 53's machine chances of making it to the final round at Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, he was the furthest down in points, was looking like a chance. to lock himself in with the way that we've been seeing Christopher Wade run, but he's got a big battle to hold off for. Zach Hall's going to fall back in line, and will Zach Hall decide to play spoiler, or will he defend the 53 at this point? Here comes that Ross Tatum up to third. I think if anything, the 11 might want to have a little bit of a say here, as he's been so patient for these tires. Now it's time for the aggressive move. Zach Hall to the inside, and for the lead, the 5 will have the better positioning into turn 1.
Let's see if Christopher Wade can get the run off the top line. Zach doing a great job getting the runs off the corner that he needs to make these passes, and just drives right by on the inside of that of the 53 of Christopher Wade and moves Zach Hall up to the lead now. And Ross Tatum going to try to catch up and see if he can have anything to say for the 53 and see if he can catch back up to the 5. And right behind them, Stitz just drives right by that of the 42 of Cole Sacchetti. Sacchetti trying to fight back on the outside line, but his tires, something with the 42 machine that he just doesn't look as dominant now that he got passed by that of Christopher Wade. That 42 is just falling back.
He's also brushed that outside wall a couple of times after those little wobbles that he found himself in. So I think that could be another factor for the 42. We've seen that outside wall as drivers hold on, and how does Cole Sacchetti hold on to that? I don't know how he does, but he's going to fall now back to 7th as Nick Holland makes the pass.
Round 2, round 2.5, round 3 with Ken Campbell and Cole Sacchetti right there is contact between the 15 and the 42. Almost sends the 42 around out of turn number 2, but what a save by Cole Sacchetti, able to keep that car underneath him, loses a couple positions, but Nick Holland, the driver on the freshest tires, moving his way up into 6th position. But the problem, Sam, he's a second, almost 2 seconds behind that of Zach Hall.
Looking at the times, Nick Holland, I think he's overcooked those tires, wasn't patient with it, was just trying to grab so much instantly once he saw that he was faster than our leaders, that he is now, well, actually now slower because he's overcooked and overbound on that tire wear. Fastest drivers on track that last time. We'll see this go around, but it is our front 2, Zach Hall, Ross Tatum. It is now the drivers that were the fastest on the long run coming to the end of our stage break. Well, now they are the top 2 trying to race to see who's going to be winning tonight's run. You've got the spoiler of Zach Hall trying to hold on to the 5 machine. He'll brush the outside wall in the exit of turn 2. Ross Tatum trying to lock himself into the final 4, and here comes the 11 on the inside.
And we're starting to see that tire wear kick in. Zach Hall with a big moment out of turn number 2, gets loose, keeps it out of the outside wall, holds on to the 5 machine, but that allows that of Ross Tatum, the man who's been so patient all night long, taking care of those tires, now gets the lead from the 5 machine. We'll have to see if Zach's got any tire left in this car to get back up there and challenge Ross Tatum.
I mean, at this current moment, our top 5, Ross Tatum technically has the oldest tires of everyone there, and just looked like he's got the freshest with that move by the 11, protecting so well as the 101 issues out of that of turn 2. He'll go down the apron, but able to hold on, will stay green as we're coming up to 11 laps to go now here at that of Homestead, where it could be a crowning moment for Ross Tatum to lock himself in for a championship run. He has been so fast. This rookie looked so good at the first half of the season. And now Trevor, this 11, trying to make that heroic push to lock himself in and not have to worry about points that were kind of a talking point at the end of our stage here tonight.
It came in tied with Rob Sherwood for that 4th position of points, only 4 points ahead of Chris Stitz, and was how dominant Stitz was at the beginning of this race. Looked like the 11 or the 2 could be in serious danger of being knocked out of the top 4 spots, but Ross doing what he needs to do to lock himself into that final 4 at Las Vegas, not having to worry about the short track of Richmond. What could happen there if this 11 can hold on for these next 10 laps and get this victory?
Who is going to be making that push? It looks like for up front, Zach Hall starting to fade away. Christopher Wade trying to move up at least a second to minimize at least some type of, if he's not going to get the win, at least maximize on his points. Chris Stitz trying to do the same exact things the 53. And Stitz, massive, runs there at the end, found himself winning the stage break. The 22, great job on the points that he could be grabbing here tonight and just trying to collect everything he can, as currently still it is Ross Tatum, the fastest driver out there on track.
And right now, Tatum's driving away up 7/10, almost 8/10 of a second gap back to this battle for second now that has Christopher Wade to the inside of Zach Hall. Down the backstretch, Wade's going to have that cleared into turn number 3.
Middle of the pack, battling for 10th place. That Rob Sherwood and many of others got into the outside wall. Joshua Altis, hard contact for the 94. as he is now puttering, going that up backwards for himself in 12th position, heavily damaged after contact on the exit turn 2.
Yeah, it looks like he just got loose, got on the outside wall, then got hit from behind by his teammate of Sherwood, who got into the 36 of Bustler. So more damage for that of the 94, damage to the nose now of the 2 of Sherwood, who was on fresh tires, already had damage, came down and got that fixed. More damage from the 2 machine. And for that of Altus, he was up there in 7th, I believe, 7th or 8th after all the trouble he's had tonight. More trouble for the 94 machine, just going to cost him some more points here tonight.
And if at this point, that of Joshua Altus, I think he might be just hoping that this race ends. He doesn't have any more sets of tires to work with, but if a caution comes out, there is still a pretty good margin of about that of 8 or 10 drivers still with an extra set to work with. Would a caution shake all this up? What are you seeing, Trevor, over on your side?
Just about had that caution as Chris Stitz was, I'd say
Altus,
about
he
70.
spins!
There it
Caution's
is.
out! Oh my goodness! In aftermath, it's going to be that of Charles Hugel gets in the outside wall trying to evade the 94. And no longer a hypothetical. We got the yellow, and now it's the hard decision time.
What do you do here? Who's still got the set of tires? We know Nick Holland has no more sets. Travis Dart doesn't have any more sets of tires left. Who else doesn't have any sets of tires left is Chris Stitz. Probably really glad to see this caution, as he was, I'd say, about how he's kept that car straight was a miracle. And then Altus spins it in the same spot as I believe that's the second time he's spun out of turn number 2, unfortunately, for the 94 machine. But Sam, this caution changes everything, and we thought these drivers were aggressive in that 30-lap stint. We're going to have a natural, I believe, green-white checkered here once we get this restarted. The aggression level is going to be through the roof.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I think we're going to have to wait and see at the timing of this yellow being thrown and drivers coming into pit road. It's either going to be a natural green-white checkered, or we are heading into overtime. And we've already seen drivers on cold tires. Aaron Hale being that driver under a green flag pit cycle. He spun out on cold tires on the entry of turn 3. And now we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers with a set of tires to work with. We've got a total of 4 not able to come into pit road. That's Nick Holland, Travis Dart, Daniel Keith Jr., Lucas Lyons. Those are all drivers that have gotten some type of damage at some point, and they're going to be starting up front on cold tires, 30-lap old tires. Oh, we're about to have some carnage if I've ever seen it.
Oh, this is going to be such a great restart. The intensity level, new tires, old tires, very old tires for that. Will spin on the restart. Playoff drivers right behind these 4, battling it out. This is going to be a great restart, as Wade was able to beat that of Stitz, Zach Hall off of pit road. And this restart, Sam, I cannot wait.
In pit road, still getting repairs done. Joshua Altus, Aaron Hale, still getting repairs done for both of them. This has not been a good run for either one's night. But here are some of the scenarios coming in. Christopher Wade, Chris Stitz, hoping that maybe they can find themselves inside of our final 4 after the night is done. For Christopher Wade to have that work out, he's going to have to win tonight to lock himself into the final 4. He's got just too many points outside, and it is really too big of a buffer for him to be marching into our final 4 just based off of raw points. Chris Stitz has already put himself inside of our final 4 based off of points. Ken Campbell, how well is he going to be racing around Cole Sacchetti, who's got fresh rubber behind him? Ross Tatum, who's been Mr. Save, he's got to get aggressive. And it looks to be, we will be finding ourselves in a natural green-white checkered if we see the lights flicker off once they come across the line.
And Ross Tatum was the leader before that caution came out. Slow pit stop for the 11 machine, loses spots to Campbell, Hall, Stitz, Wade. Not only does he have to get through those 4 drivers, he's got to get through the other 4 that stayed out, Holland, Dart, Keith, and Lyons. So just more work for the 11 to do on this restart.
And somehow, no one has gotten a required damage flag. Joshua Altus is still able to go into pit road, get damage repair. Same for Aaron Hale. They're all just coming into pit road, getting as much damage repair as they can, and they're going to get back out there. Trevor, we've had 21 drivers start out this race, all 21 still technically on the lead lap, and we're about to get ourselves ready to go racing once again as we're coming across the line. Wait for those lights to flicker off, and we are going to be finding ourselves in a natural green-white checkered. We are not in overtime just yet. If we need to go in overtime, well, that yellow flag's going to have to come out on this first lap. If we get the white flag, we race it to the end. If we get a caution before then and the yellow flag flies, we will find ourselves in overtime. And the drivers, when we go to overtime, it gets scrappy with a green-white checkered here, Trevor. It's only going to get scrappier from here on out.
Oh, it's going to be, we were at, I'd say a 90, 95 on the intensity level that last 30 lap run. We're probably at 150 on the intensity level, especially for these playoff drivers behind these top 4 drivers. This is, if we don't have a caution on this restart, Sam, I will be shocked. But we are going to see cars in every lane that you could imagine. You thought this track could only hold 3 cars wide. I think we're going to see 4, maybe 5 wide down the straightaways as these drivers work around these cars on old tires.
Well, here is your scenario. Top 4 drivers on 30-plus old tires. That's Nick Holland, Travis Dart, Lucas Lyons, Daniel Keith Jr. None of them are in our Elite 8. First Elite 8 drivers back in 5th place. Then you got 6th place of Christopher Wade. How will they be able to get by these drivers on old tires? Let's find out as we are green. Wheel spin on the inside. They are not able to get going. Stitz with a better run. Ken Campbell is able to follow in suit, but we're already finding ourselves 3 wide down into turn number 1, and it's the 22 ripping the top. Here comes Stitz trying to take that lead.
And contact between Sacchetti and the 53 of Wade, and they keep it going. No caution there. I don't know how they did it, but Stitz to the outside of that of Lucas Lyons gets around Nick Hall in the 22 up to the lead. I don't know how we didn't have a caution there, Sam, but Stitz in the lead coming to get the white flag, and this is exactly what that 22 wanted to see.
Stitz going to be getting that white flag. Get your freaky fast white flag. I don't know how we got here, but it is time to see. Will the 22 hold on? It's going to be that Ken Campbell, the freshest of tires, that's going to be trying to close in the gap on the 22. It's a little bit too far back. He hasn't been able to get by that in Nick Holland just yet. Holland's going to be defending, blocking, and just nowhere close. Chris Stitz looking for a win and to lock himself in the final 4. The 22, the yellow never came. Carnage might be happening behind him, but the 22 is going to find himself locked in to the final 4 and racing for a championship. As they're wrecking across the line, it is pandemonium, but they all survive somehow. And whoo, it's Ken Campbell getting that a second. Nick Holland gets 3rd. Zach Hull 4th. The first next playoff driver is that of Ross Tatum, all the way down to 6th place.
We went from, I think it was 4 of our 8, 5 of our top 8 playoff drivers were in the top 10 at one point to 1 in the top 5, and everybody else 6th on back. What a finish that was. That late race caution changed everything. And the man who dominated stage 1 fell back there toward the end of the green flag run, finds his way into victory lane, locks himself into the final 4 at Las Vegas. Chris Stitz gets the win here tonight.
Chris Stitz, congratulations. You will be running for a championship in 2 weeks at Las Vegas. And man, he gets to have fun burning it down. For us, the show's not over. We still got the post-race show. We'll talk to our top 3, Nick Holland, Ken Campbell, and as well, Chris Stitz. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show for that of the Full Send Racing Series for the first race of the round of 8 for the Rock You Like a Hurricane 195, presented by K-Nugz Sim Paint Shop. It was that of Homestead, the destination. Madness at the start, and the driver somehow on old tires survives and gets a top 3 finish. Let's talk to that machine. It's the 68 of Nick Holland. Nick, it's Sam and Trevor up in the booth. Congratulations on a top 3 finish. I mean, congratulations overall. Old tires, and somehow you get a top 3 finish. How are you feeling after that restart?
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. It was a crazy ending for sure. I did not think that I was going to stay up there for as long as I did, and I figured I'd get blown past, which the people that did blow by me were my teammates, so that's fine. But yeah, overall, it was a good race.
And Nick, I mean, just walk us through that race. We saw, people running the top, people running the bottom. Tire wear obviously was a big deal. Cars looked loose out there. I mean, what were you feeling all night long in that 68 machine?
Yeah, well, it was definitely a nightmare trying to put the throttle to the floor coming out of the specifically 2. 4 wasn't as bad once you got to about 3/4 of the way through the turn, but definitely coming out of 2 was kind of a nightmare to get the thing going. So it was really laying back, which I think that contributed to the close racing earlier in the runs as well.
Well, Nick, we've got only 2 more races left in the season. I know for yourself, seeing your teammate Chris Stitz locking himself into the Final 4, how are you trying to set yourself up to help out with your teammates, trying to battle for the playoffs at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to have good results for myself. Make sure I'm out of Chris's way if I can be, and if there's any situations where I can offer some help, then take the advantage of it.
Well, Nick, congratulations again on a top 3 finish in the situation you were placed in. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, well, mainly I'd like to shout out Zach Hall for giving me the push across the start finish line in reverse, which was pretty awesome. I'd like to give a shout out to Holland's Heroes back in the Xbox party, and definitely a shout out to our whole team at Chromehorn Racing. It was perfect, a perfect race to have with us being 1, 2, 3.
Fantastic finish to be seen. That's Nick Holland in the 68. Congratulations on a top 3 finish, and good luck next week at Richmond.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for putting on a great broadcast.
Thank you for giving us a great show. As we go from 3rd place, we head to 2nd, where we got that of Ken Campbell. Saw him get bullied, shoved around the last 2 races, but tonight seemed like he was the one on the aggressive. We got Ken Campbell with us. Ken, congratulations on a 2nd place finish on getting by the drivers on the old tires. But man, let's go back to how you were racing Cole Sacchetti, because you two just seemed like could not get away from one another. Man, how was it trying to pinch and hold off that 42?
It was fun. You know, a lot of times I don't race as hard as I can, and just try to pick my moments. And some guys like to race hard all the time, and so now that I'm out of the playoffs, I was like, what have I got to lose? And so just wanted to go all the time, and I hate that I ended up getting tight and getting into him there at the end. Just a mistake on my part, just pushing too hard. But it was fun. It was something a little bit different tonight.
Ken, you're kind of the punching bag there at New Hampshire, Michigan. Knocked you out of the playoffs. You come in, get a 2nd place here. You got 2 races left, Richmond and Las Vegas. I mean, what's your mindset going into those last 2 races?
Mindset right now is get Stitz to win the championship. I mean, we finished 1, 2, 3 tonight for Chromehorn. It was a great night for the team. And Richmond, I'm not great there anyway, so just kind of show up and have fun. But then for the championship, it's all about getting Stitz and Chromehorn the championship.
Well, Ken, overall tonight, congratulations on a 2nd place finish, and congratulations for the team being 1, 2, 3. Before we let you go, though, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
As always, first and foremost, thank you to my wife and kids for supporting me at sim racing and everything that I do. My mom and sister for watching the broadcast. My nephew Lawson has gotten into it. Congrats to him on basketball. He's doing really well with that. Chromehorn, it was a 1, 2, 3 night. Got Stitz into the championship for that. Nick had a great race as well. Didn't qualify where he wanted, came up to it. Marty hadn't been able to be here. He's having some health issues, but he'll be all right and be back soon. Tonight's paint, Auburn University. The painter was Will Bustler, and so if you want to look as good as I do on track, go see him. Everybody at Full Send, Travis and John, the admins, do a fantastic job. All the guys here are really fun to race with as well. K-Nugz for sponsoring the race, and you guys up in the booth.
Well, thank you to you, Ken, for giving us the great information. Ken's usually the guy who's giving us all the data for how the drivers run. Congratulations, Ken, on a second place finish, and good luck heading to Richmond next week.
Appreciate it, boys.
So go from second place. Let's head to victory lane, to the driver that's been searching all season long and finally finds himself in victory lane when it comes down to crunch time. We got Chris Stitz with us. Chris, congratulations. You found yourself a victory lane and you're now in the final four. How are you feeling after tonight?
Thank you guys so much. That was awesome. I mean, Chrome Horn, it's our first win of the season and we did it in style, getting a 1-2-3 with the team. Making it to the championship 4, couldn't get any better.
I mean, Chris, you dominated the first stage. The second stage, once you got past there, you kind of fell back before the green flag pit stops. I mean, what was your mindset as you started falling back through the field before those green flag pit stops?
My mindset during all that was never give up. I knew there's always that chance that anything can happen, leaders tangling, any of that, but I didn't have anything for them. So I needed something like this, perfect caution situation like that. And it ended up working out so well for our whole team.
It really did help out the whole team. But Chris, I mean, as a season as a whole, you've had a lot of shining moments of being one of the fastest drivers out there on track. How much does this mean finally getting into victory lane after a lot of the woes you've had, but the strength you've been showing these last couple of weeks?
It means a lot. I felt like I should have won at Michigan last week, and to come here and do it this week, even better. And all throughout the season, just second place, unlucky finishes, all the above. And to do it when it matters, that's all that matters.
Well, Chris, congratulations on the win. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
Thank you, guys. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Frostfire Insulation, and the Lake Anna brand. Also thank Travis and John and everyone who's involved in running this league. Love what they do, and it's been fantastic running with them. And you guys up in the booth always do a fantastic job broadcasting. I love to go back and watch them. And my teammates especially. They've been there the entire season with me, and we've done it together. And to finally get that first win for the team and get that 1-2-3, better.
Well, that is going to be your victor here tonight. Chris Stitz in the 22 and our first of our final four to be locked in. Congratulations on the win. Good luck next week at Richmond, and better luck in 2 weeks when we head to Las Vegas. Good luck, Chris.
Thank you guys so much.
Well, as we go from victory lane, let's head to that of the unofficial results. Trevor, what a night this was. That late race caution changed everything, shook up at what we were expecting, and it's Chris Stitz in victory lane for the 22. Ken Campbell going to be in second, Nick Holland third, Zach Hall is going to grab fourth, with Lucas Lyons in fifth. Ross Tatum drops all the way down to sixth position. Will Bustler gets seventh. Cameron Sarton somehow for the 24 gets eighth out of all of that. Travis Starton moves up to ninth. Philip Chavez gets a top 10. And the question is, where's the rest of our playoff drivers?
I mean, that late race caution changed everything. You have Cole Sacchetti down there in 13th. Aaron Hale, after his wreck in 14th, was able to come back. Joshua Altus, after his couple of spins down there, 16th. Sherwood in 17th after he got involved in some contact with his teammate. And then Christopher Wade, that restart got caught up behind one of the cars on old tires, got tight, got up in and got hit by that of Cole Sacchetti all the way down there in 20th. So Wade went from a chance at winning this race, now was already kind of in a must-win scenario, now definitely in a must-win scenario going next week into Richmond.
And based on the points that were grabbed at the stage points and where they finished, I believe that Rob Sherwood's going to be the driver that came in tonight inside of our final four. He will be bounced out, give that position to Chris Stitz with the win. He's locked in. The points are going to be just so much closer heading into Richmond next week. And I gotta say, Trevor, I'm excited to see what short track racing is gonna give us. If anything, that last night, if you've been watching us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, short track racing, obviously, short track, you talk about short tempers, we could see some very aggressive short tempers grow at Richmond.
Well, I mean, we saw how aggressive the cutoff race was at Michigan. We saw how aggressive drivers were willing to be here tonight. And next week, short track racing, cutoff race, you're gonna have three drivers that are going to be in must-win scenarios. Not sure how the points are going to work out for Sherwood compared to, I believe, it's either going to be Sarton or Tatum that are going to be close to that cutoff line. We'll have to wait and see what points are going to look like after tonight. But that intensity level next week at Richmond, it's going to be high, and there might be a couple of drivers walking out of there with some hurt feelings based off of how they finish next week.
Oh, next week it's going to be a blast, and we cannot wait to give you the coverage. But before next week comes around, we do have another broadcast. That's going to be this upcoming Monday. We only got 2 broadcasts a week just for that next week. It's going to be the ISRC Race Car Graveyard Truck Series, their final race of the season at Phoenix Monday night. You do not want to miss that one. The drama was heating up, and you're going to be able to see the behind the scenes of the drama. Episode 4 of The Long Run going to be underway for myself to start editing during this time off that we have. But drivers were mad at the cutoff race last night, and they are coming into Phoenix hot and heavy, and the desert is just not going to be able to contain them. Cannot wait for it. And then for these drivers, the cutoff race, who's going to be battling for a championship? Well, we get those answers next week on who is in, who is out. Richmond for that of the Full Send Racing Series, the last race of the round of 8. We cannot wait to give you the coverage here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. But for tonight, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Trevor Earhart, and for Robert Moyer Jr., thank you for joining us. And for everyone else back at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for everything that they do. We will be back next week. Who's moving in? Who is knocked out? Let's find out. And we cannot wait to see you on our next broadcast. For tonight, have a good one. We'll see you on our next one.